Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here, because today we're tackling a topic that literally frustrates millions of people. If you've ever tried to cut out carbs or maybe start a keto protocol and then just found yourself completely exhausted, starving, or ready to throw in the towel after, 3 days? Well, you are absolutely not alone. Today we're going to simplify this whole massive metabolic shift into a super clear, manageable roadmap. We're looking at exactly how to safely and effectively transition your body away from high-carb diets without the misery. Let's get right into it.
So why does quitting carbs feel so awful at first? You cut the carbs, you think you're doing everything perfectly, right? But then, bam, you're hit with this crushing fatigue, crippling brain fog, muscle cramps, and these cravings that just won't quit. People call this the keto flu. And honestly, it's the exact reason so many beginners just assume their body, can't do low carb and they quit. I really want to validate what you might have felt here. That misery is very real. But here's the secret. It is completely preventable.
Here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. We're looking at why quitting carbs fails, the great metabolic shift, how to clean your environment, the 20-gram rule, the electrolyte protocol, and finally, redefining real hunger.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Why Quitting Carbs Fails.
We've got to reframe this whole issue right out of the gate. Quitting carbs and failing isn't a failure of your willpower. It absolutely doesn't mean your body is broken. Like the saying goes, it's not keto that's failing, it's your electrolyte balance. The problem is just a fundamental misunderstanding of what your body actually needs when you take away its primary fuel source. Here is the hidden mechanism. When you drop the carbs, your insulin levels naturally drop. And hey, that's a great thing. That's exactly what unlocks your stored body fat. But insulin also tells your kidneys to hold on to sodium. So the moment insulin drops, your kidneys just initiate this rapid flush of sodium, and where sodium goes, potassium and magnesium are dragged right out with it. You aren't failing a diet, you are just profoundly undermineralized.
Think about it like this. Imagine switching your car from just standard gas to this incredible high-performance rocket fuel, but you completely forget to add engine oil. The new fuel might be technically better, but without the oil, that engine is absolutely going to misfire. It's the exact same on a low-carb diet. Without replacing those lost electrolytes, your bodily engine misfires. Your body actually panics, goes into full-on compensation mode, and spikes your stress hormone, cortisol. And that completely blocks fat loss and leaves you feeling totally exhausted.
Moving on to Section 2, the Great Metabolic Shift.
Let's look at what's actually going on down at the cellular level when we stop relying on sugar and transition over to this new system. There is a totally stark contrast between these two physiological states. A sugar-burning body, it basically operates on unstable electricity. Your blood glucose spikes, you get this quick burst of energy, and then boom, you quickly crash and you're demanding more food. Now contrast that with a fat-burning body. Once you're adapted, you run on this smooth, stable, long-term fuel that you already have stored away. You are no longer held hostage by those constant blood sugar swings.
But getting to that stable state means you have to survive this hidden biological chain reaction. We touched on it a second ago, but let's spell it out. First, your insulin drops. Next, your kidneys flush out the sodium. Then, potassium and magnesium leave the building entirely. In response, your adrenal glands hit the panic button and release cortisol, and boom, fat burning is biologically blocked. So, we really have to reframe our narrative here. Instead of asking, why isn't this diet working? We really need to start asking ourselves, is my body properly supported to actually run this new system?
Which brings us to Section 3, Clean Your Environment.
Knowledge alone just isn't going to cut it. We have to talk about the physical, real-world reality of starting this journey. Because those cravings you're feeling, they aren't just hunger. They are deeply tied to visual triggers, emotions, and just plain old habits. You literally have to physically clean your cupboards of these specific items. We're talking cereals, pasta and rice, sugary snacks, crackers, white flour, and those frozen processed meals. You've got to get them out. Processed carbs trigger the reward centers in your brain so powerfully. Keeping them on your counter while you're trying to quit is basically like an alcoholic trying to recover while keeping a fully stocked bar in the living room. Your brain remembers those triggers. You need to make your home a safe zone.
But wait, pause for a second. Do not immediately rush out to the store and replace all that old junk with expensive keto junk food. Please don't just swap your sugar addiction for keto cookies and bars and candies that keep your brain completely hooked on sweetness. Keep it brilliantly simple, especially at the start. Stick to real, single-ingredient foods, things like eggs, meat, fish, olives, and avocados. Your goal right now is not to become some gourmet keto chef.
Your goal is simply to become metabolically flexible.
All right, Section 4, the 20-gram rule.
So to actually switch your body's fuel sources, you have to send an incredibly clear, undeniable signal that the glucose supply has fundamentally changed. And 20 is your absolute target here. For beginners, we are aiming for a strict 20 grams of total carbohydrates per day to force that metabolic transition. We aren't going to play internet math games with net carbs right at the beginning. Your body needs absolute clarity. 20 total grams a day is that firm line in the sand that pushes your metabolism to finally adapt.
Now, how do you actually know if that 20-gram rule is working? Go grab some inexpensive, like $15 urine ketone strips. Trying to do this transition without them is honestly like driving across the country with no dashboard. These strips are going to give you real-time feedback to prove that your body is in fact making ketones. Also, you might want to optionally consider using C8 or C10 MCT oil. Think of MCT oil as your training wheels. They convert into ketones super quickly in the liver, and they can give you a really nice energy bridge while your body is still learning how to burn its own fat. Moving to Section 5, the electrolyte protocol.
If you're experiencing that awful keto flu, or low energy, or maybe your fat loss is stalled out, this daily rhythm is your absolute secret weapon. This is how we fix the engine's electrical system, and we break it down into 3 incredibly simple steps. Step 1. In the morning, you wake up naturally dehydrated with slightly elevated cortisol, so drink a glass of water with just a half teaspoon of sea salt to immediately stabilize your blood volume and energy. Step 2. Midday, you're going to eat potassium-rich foods. And Step 3. In the evening, take about 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate or citrate. This is literally the spark for your cellular energy. It sparks your mitochondrial ATP, lowers that stress cortisol, and pretty much guarantees you deep restorative sleep.
Speaking of midday potassium for Step 2, these right here are your key sources. Take a mental screenshot of this. If sodium is the fluid outside your cells, potassium is your internal battery. Avocados, spinach, salmon, and mushrooms. Eating these during the day ensures your cellular electrical balance stays absolutely perfect, and that prevents the muscle weakness, the fatigue, and those dreaded heart palpitations.
And finally, Section 6, redefining real hunger. Once your electrolytes are perfectly balanced and your carbs are consistently low, you have to relearn what it actually feels like to be full on a fat-adapted metabolism. For years, you've probably equated being full with that physical stomach stretching or, carb bloating. But real satiety, that is actually about hormonal satisfaction. In fact, doctors sometimes prescribe this wild butter experiment to their patients where they literally eat pure butter until the body naturally just says, "Whoa, enough." It effectively teaches your brain the profound difference between just overstretching your stomach and achieving true biological hormonal satiety. Once you finally understand that feeling of hormonal satiety, you must implement this one golden rule. Eat only when you are truly hungry. Not just because the clock on the wall says it's noon, not because some commercial's telling you breakfast is the most important meal of the day. When fat becomes your primary fuel, that constant nagging panic around food completely fades away. You really have to unlearn the habit of automatic snacking and give your insulin a chance to stay low so your fat cells can actually open up and be used for energy. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to remember this. Consistency beats intensity. Every single time. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to do some extreme multi-day fast on day 1. You just need daily stability. Look, it takes time and repetition for your body to unlearn literally decades of sugar burning and to rebuild the cellular machinery to burn fat efficiently. Keep your total carbs at 20 grams, keep those electrolytes topped up every single day, and just let your body do the work.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. What is the single action you are going to take right now? Are you going to march into the kitchen and finally throw away those crackers? Are you going to commit to starting tomorrow morning with a simple glass of salt water? Choose just one thing, implement it, and then pay really close attention to the feedback your body gives you. Because once you support the system correctly, man, everything changes. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and keep learning.